Hey all there, virtual sky sailors. Thanks for clicking in. Welcome to a survival guide for getting started in the game of Aloft. This title is still in early access, receiving regular updates, but we're in the fall of 2025, with about 7 or 8 months in, and I'll be showing as many features as I can, sorted by chapter, so look down in the time bar below and maybe a specific topic that you were looking for is there already. Hopefully I have answers to something you wanted to know. So let's get started with character customization. This is a pretty fun art style, and we have a few options to select from, but no fine detail adjustment for the features. There are submenus in the creator for hair and beard style, along with hair and eye color. It's not much in terms of your overall look, but there's always just staying in the first-person camera option. Although this game can be played in a third-person camera, which is recommended for motion sickness. You can change the camera in the settings menu or with the F4 key. The game starts us out in a dimly lit cave, but you'll see shimmering materials to gather all around you. The basic wood and stone that we'll need for our first and most basic starter tools. The first that we're instructed to make is the hammer to fill in foundations that will create a bridge across a gap in the cave walls. To do this, we open our Player tab menu. Go to the Player Crafting interface, adding 1 wood and 1 stone. This combination will give you the recipe for the hammer, and here we see the general idea for unlocking specifically the Workbench recipes. For these specific recipes, we won't need to look for or discover recipes out in the world, just the materials needed, which then can be combined in the correct orders to learn new components and tools. I'll cover that more in depth later in the video and give some useful recipes that you might need. To build, we open a menu using the B key and select the wood foundation. They will auto-highlight when you hover your cursor near existing foundations. Just the initial frame will do. You don't have to fill in the wood to cross it. After filling in the bridge, you'll reach your first knowledge stone. This is one of 3 ways that we acquire blueprints for building recipes like building assets, decorations, and crafting benches. The second will be anchors that are surrounded by floating jewels that give specifically airship technology like rudders and sails. The third is using the sketchbook, and I'll touch on this more in the tools section of the video. For now, let's get out of this cave by crafting the workbench that we just learned from the knowledge stone. Opening the building menu, note these categories across the top. Go to the one that looks like a little home, and you'll find all of your core crafting stations. Unlike our player menu, which only has 2 spots for materials, the workbench has 5 for more item combinations. We will need a pickaxe to get out of this cave, so we need to combine 2 stones to make a sharp stone first. Then we combine the sharp stone with another regular stone and wood. And while you're here, you might as well combine 1 wood and 1 more sharp stone, and that will give you the stone axe. When you exit the cave, the wind picks up, as overhead you'll spot what is the current endgame objective, I think, the Leviathan. A little foreshadowing as it flies over our heads, and we venture out onto a huge starter island. At this point, we're grounded, but if we make our way to the top of the peak in front of us as we exit the cave, we will get our first major upgrade, the glider. Along the way, you'll find another knowledge stone at the base of this mountain, sitting on a platform near the waterfall. When you find this one, or knowledge stones elsewhere, your first interaction will give you the building blueprint for the home kite. We will need this shortly to claim ourselves an island. Further, continue up through the caves and the hollowed out parts of the mountain until you reach a platform with the golden arch shimmer on it and the workbench nearby. These are frescoes, a point of interest where players will gain key technology throughout the game. A short cutscene will play before it's revealed what's been added to our knowledge base. This one is the glider stand, and if you don't already have leaf cloth from gathering around the area, use the workbench by the fresco to make yourself 3 cloths by adding 3 leaves to the table for each piece. Once you have those, open the glider stand and equip it. Now that we can fly, we can get busy gathering across all these starter islands. Materials are everywhere, and I recommend gathering as much as you can, as you have 4 separate inventories to fill up. You definitely want to be on the lookout for things like rope, paper, charcoal, windstone, and leaves to make cloth, as all these things will become important to setting up an island to get sailing. And to do that, we need to first discover ship technology across the starter zone. You will be looking for these anchors with the orbiting, colorful gems around them. Interacting with these will give you the necessary rudder, helm, floaters, and sails that are required for sailing. Future anchors will provide upgraded sails for tougher materials, which will allow you to pass through stronger storms between map tiers. Hopefully, along with your exploration, you found an island that will be suitable for your building style. When you do, find the home kite in your building menu and put it down somewhere on the island. Then interact with the kite to claim it as your home. This will allow you to summon your island or teleport to it from the tab menu. Not all islands can be claimed. Story islands, wonder islands, and some of the larger islands can't be sailed, as the size of the island affects how many rudders, floaters, and sails that you'll need to get it running. The quest prompts in the corner will guide you through each item, crossing it off the list as soon as you've built enough. With the list done, the map table down, you can take the helm and cruise out of the zone for new islands to discover and rob of their resources. The map for this game is a little unique. It's only accessible through this table. There are 3 rings of tiers that intermix with the 3 current biomes as this time in the video is being made, although it's said that there's another coming. Each ring is broken down into smaller tiles, and each tile has smaller packs of islands within it. It's worth noting that each of these packs is surrounded by a darkened zone that's within this area that you can fly. Outside of these zones, you'll have to sail on your island. And you can use right-click to mark zones on the map that will then be highlighted with a brightly colored column in the sky so that you can sail towards it. There is a mix of island statuses that you'll encounter. A 100% island will appear in green on the map. An unhealthy island that will require some reforesting and environmental assistance will show up in yellow, while corrupted islands come up in pink. These corrupted islands are where we will experience Aloft's combat by eliminating some hostile fungus and their growths by attacking these big yellow towering growths. Each one will offshoot 3 tendrils that can be targeted. When all 3 are dead, the plant will coil up to the ground and bloom, revealing this little bulb. Attack that, and the cycle will repeat over a second time. It may spawn a variety of mushroom-inspired enemies that will melee or ranged attack you. These fungus towers may also include their own self-defense mechanisms by having extra sets of tentacles that will snap or swing at players in a melee range, or will be surrounded by small red plants that will explode when you walk near them. Corrupted fungus and all enemies provide something called Mictor fiber, which can then be used to make rope, but save extra for the future research in the labs that you'll receive early on from exploring the frescoes. Some corrupted islands can have non-hostile plants that are surrounded by blackened ground or have corrupted trees that need to be cleared before it's possible to restore the island to healthy. By the time you're landing at your first corrupted island, you may not have a proper weapon, but the axe will do until you put together a sword in the workbench using 1 rope, 3 sharp stones, and 1 wood. But this sword does swing considerably faster and helps make quick work of the fungus towers. In the beginning, you'll have only the most basic attack of skill and clicking, but as you clear more islands and enemies, you'll have pop-ups that notify you of new skills like charged attacks, the upslash, or ground pound. Don't worry if you miss the initial pop-up. You can revisit combat skills and how to do them in the player journal. Your first skill comes after clearing an island or 2. It's a simple charged attack in which you click and hold the attack while aiming at the mushroom that you want to target. If targeted, the hostile will be highlighted in blue, and when you release your hold on the click, your character will leap forward, attacking that target from a distance. In the future, you'll start acquiring the Tool Station upgrade frame and its complementary attachments like the Sharpening Station, Coating Station, and Customizing Station. As suggested, you'll be able to coat weapons and tools. These coatings will have different functions, but among them is additional damage to fungus, and sharpening adds damage as well. Customizing will allow you to add trinkets that will change the weapon attributes. This brings me to talking a little bit more about the expanded toolset in Aloft, and while we will get bone upgrades for all of those starter axe, pickaxe, etc., there are so many other tools that you're going to need along the way, including 2 books. The sketchbook is for learning, building, and decorating recipes. To make one, we need 2 wood, 1 paper, and 1 charcoal. To use the sketchbook, you get yourself some new recipes. Make sure that you have the charcoal in your inventory, and then equip the sketchbook in your action bar. Select it and hold right-click. With the book extended, you can now left-click on objects, walls, door frames, roofs, or furniture, lighting objects, whatever you can find, to learn them. The field guide is necessary to recovering unhealthy islands, as it contains the makeup of flora and fauna that have yet to be replaced, as well as what's there for you to find on healthy islands. It lists trees, plants, fungi, insects, and animal diversity. Right-clicking to hold the guide and left-clicking to turn through the pages, which contain even more detail about the plant and animal diversity. To make one, assemble 1 wood, 1 paper, 1 rope, and 2 leaf cloth. And get settled in, because this game is huge and we've got some tools to go still. A torch can be made with 1 wood and 1 charcoal. A sickle can be made with 1 wood, 1 rope, and 2 sharp stones, and this will be needed to cut down plants and crops and grasses that are come across islands. The bug net is made from 1 bright sunflower, 2 wool thread, 1 wood, and 1 carved wood. The Dorkips can be used to uproot turf or to till crop plots. The recipe for that one is 2 wood, 1 rope, and 1 sharpstone. A leaf bucket can gather water from ponds, but it can also be used to water crops or cool ember stones by splashing them with a bucket in your action bar. The bucket will consume dirty water first for crops and ember stones, and you make that by doing 1 wood, 1 rope, and 3 leaf cloth. Shears for obtaining wool from sheep or alpacas is 1 carved wood and 2 hardstones. And to make that carved stone component, it's made with 3 wood, 1 hardstone, and 1 sharpstone. Cogs can be made with 2 carved wood and 3 grease. A bow can be made with 2 carved wood, 2 feathers, and 1 rope. And the arrows to go with it are 2 feathers, 1 carved wood, 1 rope, and 1 sharp stone. And that's just some of the main workbench basics. I'll get to the other workbenches in the crafting segment, but I wanted to touch on something really quick. We covered the corrupt islands already, but not the unhealthy islands. You might notice that as you're flying up to them, their colors will be dulled out, and most items won't be gatherable until the islands have been restored. The field guide will have the information about how many trees there might be missing, how many plant species, if fungal spores need to be replanted at the base of trees, or if there are too few bug species. There's also categories for animal diversity where you might have to build habitats and release animals collected from other islands. Also, check for corrupted trees or damaged birdhouses that require wood and leaf cloth to repair. If there are habitats needed, check the field guide for what animals exist there and choose something to add from your collection of frogs, lizards, birds, bats, and build that habitat to match the species. Then release the animal onto the island and it should tick up your percentage on your island's health. Now on to crafting stations and what you can do with them. The first that you'll get is the Grindstone. That will mill items into crafting components or grain from any of your seeds. To get grease, though, we want to grind mictor fibers from fungus in the Grindstone. And you can also get flour by adding wheat, or for sugar, add those sugar beets, and for salt, add rock salt. Adding anything to the compost bin will get you compost that can be used in crop plots and constructing habitats or vivariums for small animal storage. The spinner makes threads into rope. The loom will spin leaves and wool into cloth. The sawmill turns raw wood into planks. The flax break does as it suggests, breaks down flax into a component for linen cloth. The pigment pool will turn crops and flowers into paint colors that are used in some recipes and decorations. The pottery wheel and kiln are found later in the game for processing clay into bricks, along with 2 stills for brewing antidotes and fungicides. Many of these crafting benches can be hooked up to windmills that we'll discover in a fresco, and by doing so, we'll automate the processing of materials when our windmills are directed into the wind. And knowing that you'll have this many machines to facilitate crafting everything that you'll need, it might make you consider the size of the home island that you pick. At least windmills can be built most anywhere and allow you to stretch the size at the base or for the sails. Vertical windmills were also recently added, so you can pack a few more onto those smaller islands. This could be useful as running many machines at once will be a lot faster if you're not relying on one windmill trying to run everything, even if the extension poles do allow us to interconnect many machines if we want to run lean. But also, you'll want to consider the size of the island you pick for movement between the tiered rings of the map, as between each there is a stormy area that, as you enter, you'll see what looks like an asteroid field pop up into your view. Unlike the assorted floating stones out there in the map zones, these large rocks will collide with your island and will break away into pieces on contact, doing damage to your mainsails. There are also explosive meteors floating around out there as well. You can tell by their black texture and molten stripes. These erupt in a fireball on contact and can do considerable damage. After enough of them hit, your ship will become disabled and send the helm spinning as it kicks you out of the sailing UI. You have a short time to get over to your sails and start hammering on them with cloth to repair it. Or I've found that it's possible to reset the event if you wait for too long. Once the sails are repaired, return to the helm and continue on trying to aim yourself as straight as you can through the storm. You can see a bar that goes across the top of the screen indicating how far you've gone through the storm and approximately shows how fast you're moving. If you're steering a lot to avoid boulders and meteor, then note your orientation so you don't get turned around or spend unnecessary time lost in this storm. And on the other side of your storm, you'll find yourself in a new map zone. Depending upon which side you crossed over, you may find yourself in packs of evergreen islands that resemble the first zone called the Emerald Isle, or you might find yourself in the second zone, which looks like we drifted into the autumn season. It's called the Fallen Heights. Each biome doesn't just have a unique look to it. It comes with all new materials, crops, bugs, animals, and challenges. For example, as we enter the third biome of the Red Cliffs, we're introduced to the temperature mechanics, forcing us to craft new gear to accommodate for the heat, as well as to drink water for frequent hydration buffs during the hottest parts of the day. Islands vary vastly in size and design. Some even come with puzzles now after the addition of the Pyrologics update. Trapdoors, switches, pressure plates, and more were added so that we could create an even more amazing island home. But devs assembled plenty of these pieces together for us into puzzles that we may have to solve before we can access the Knowledge Stone or the sailing tech inside. There might also be chests or other worthwhile loot. In addition to the knowledge, you'll be perpetually on the hunt for islands that will have combinations of items and animals associated with that biome. However, worms, ladybugs, and the chickadee bird, plus several species of moths and butterflies, are shared across all biomes. I'll list some of the key items by biome that you might be looking for. In the Emerald Isles, you'll find mostly sheep and alpacas, but the goats have a rare spawn chance. Bees are plentiful, along with 6 colors of moths and butterflies. There are rainbow and white bird varieties, along with brown and white bats. In this zone, you'll also find the orange frogs and the yellow lizards for the small animal diversity. And for crops, we have blueberries, coffee, corn, sugar beets, and wheat. Within the Fallen Heights, we get the addition of pheasants for feathers and eggs, but the only other large animal we will find here is sheep. The small animal diversity consists of blue frogs, purple lizards, the red blackbird, the blue jaybird, along with the brown and red bats. Bees, fireflies, and blue beetles can be found here, along with 7 kinds of moths and butterflies. Crops for this zone are flax, pumpkin, and tomato, while we can find 3 species of flowers: the azure sky blossom, purple moonbloom, and yellow moonbloom. In the Red Cliffs, we find clay, and lots of it, along with alpacas and goats. For small animals, it's the green frog and the green lizard, and we can still catch the fireflies here. Now the horn beetles, too, with 7 species of butterflies and moss. The acai gum, bone, and dark wood are gatherable from this zone in addition to the clay. Plant species include cactus, aloe vera, carrots, potatoes, peas, and watermelon. Because, with all those crops, the next thing I gotta mention is the farming and the cooking. Because that was a given feature in a survival crafter like this one. We have a multitude of crop plot styles along with the progression in Aloft. We even get crop plots that will match different foundation shapes or look like decorative planters. Some come pre-composted, others will require you to add extra. To make compost, you can add to any of the available ingredients to the bin and let it process. The large crop plots will require you to use your Dorkips tool before you can plant any of the seeds. Once that's done, clicking on the plot will pull up a UI of all the seeds in your inventory to select for that plot. The last step is to equip your watering bucket in the action bar and splash the plants to get them growing. This game doesn't require watering daily, but you will have to water like some crops twice, so now we just have to wait to harvest. It's simple enough, pretty painless this game is. There are a few crops that act as perennials, as they will not disappear after harvesting and will continue to produce food from the original plant. Those are blueberry bushes, watermelons, pumpkins, and tomatoes. The rest will need replanting of seeds after every harvest, and each harvest has a chance to return more seeds to you. And of course, this isn't all for nothing. You can turn these ingredients into more complex dishes that provide better health regen and buffs using either that campfire or the oven workstation by adding stone plates to your stations. The stone plates you can find in the building menu next to the campfire in case you had trouble finding them the first time like I did. The cooking template works two ways for this game. So for poor and generic meals that mostly consist of soup and simple meals, we have categories like liquid, dry, and seasoned. Combining anything under these categories will produce the corresponding soup or meal recipe. For example, combining any 3 random ingredients will produce a burnt meal, or combining 2 dry ingredients with 1 liquid will give you a bland soup. For generic meals, the categories are further extended to fruits and vegetables. Like adding 3 veggies together gives you a bowl of mixed veggies. Add fruit with liquid and yet more fruit or some random dry ingredient and it will make a smoothie. Hopefully you get the gist of it from that. If not, there's a wiki page for players that are filling it up with recipes that they've discovered, and I'll link that for you in the description. Because you might also need it if you're trying to learn all of the specific cooking recipes. These formulas must be exact ingredients to produce the dish. So, for example, if we wanted to use up all those blueberries and make some pie, then we'd need blueberries, sugar, and flour. And if you haven't already picked up plenty of flour and sugar from looting on the islands, you can also make them using your grindstone. For flour, use wheat. For sugar, use sugar beets. And for salt, use rock salt. The wiki page will also list any bonus buffs that come from your food sources, such as the efficient buff that increases attack damage, or enthusiastic, which increases movement speed. So while cooking isn't entirely necessary due to no demand for regular consumption, it is a nice bonus to use up materials and maximize your fun for the Corrupt Island combat. One thing I love about Aloft is that there are all these animals everywhere to collect and house on your island from tiny to large. It's a bonus that they all have these adorable styled habitats to match. Developers have also given us quite a menu for building to manage them all. The large varieties of animals are alpacas, sheep, goats, and pheasants. These vary by biome but all follow a similar formula for how to obtain them. When you find a wandering animal that you want to adopt, you might want to check the field guide first to make sure that you won't be upsetting the ecosystem by removing it. To make a friend, you feed the animal either hay or grain depending upon its requirement, and you will now be able to pick it up and carry it. If your home island is close enough, you'll be able to hold the E key while holding the animal and send it back to your island, since you cannot glide while holding them. But to receive the animal on your island, you'll also need a landing pad from the building menu. And if you have several, you can name the landing pad to specify where you want the animal to go. Now, unless you put them into pens or housing, animals will wander freely about the island, but they can't entirely go missing, so don't worry. If you're unable to find them, you can build an animal bell from the building menu. Ringing it will call all animals to the bell location. And if you want to specify further which animal to call, you can attach a sign to the bell so that you can keep them all organized. Alpacas and sheep will provide you with wool that you may need for a variety of crafting projects in addition to sails for traveling between zones. To get this, we will need shears and some hay. Feeding each animal makes them shearable for a time period. I'm usually able to clip them twice between feedings if I'm regularly checking on the wool regrowth. And feeding pheasants will provide feathers or egg drops, and the goats can be milked with a wooden bucket. For the smaller animals that we can collect from the islands and release to foster habitat renewal for the unhealthy islands, we have a selection of vivariums to store or display pets rather than having to keep them boxed up in some seaweed basket. For the moths and butterflies, there are flower vivariums. Each has 4 slots for different insects, and they will stack if the insect stacks. Bees and fireflies will also fit in here. The rocky vivariums are more specifically for insects that don't fly, which would be worms, ladybugs, blue beetles, and the horned beetle. The pond vivariums are for assorted frogs of different colors. The burrow vivariums will hold the lizards and small mammals, the little jerboas that you can find in red cliffs. The perch vivarium trees will hold all varieties of birds and bats. There are also an assortment of small displays like the potted flower or the small animal cushions that you can build everywhere across your homes to put little critters in. And am I forgetting anything? This game is pretty big and it's full of amusing things to distract oneself with. Well, oh yeah, building, which really ends up being almost the point of the game because there isn't really a formal objective or an obvious villain to kill, or at least for now. There's mostly collecting recipes and a whole lot of crafting, so you might as well choose yourself a sizable island as your canvas to make some art with hundreds of assets that developers gave us. There really isn't much in the way of building restrictions. Foundations can be hung off the sides of islands, and there aren't many collision areas where things can't be placed. There are several building modes that can be changed using the R key. Automatic snaps everything to a grid that lines up with the similar sized pieces nearby. Manual will keep the pieces snapping to the grid, but it will let you move it by half lengths or even use the scroll wheel to move the piece into a more exact place. Disabling the grid lets players go snap-free and build as they like. The E and Q keys rotate pieces and click them into place. Right-click with the building hammer to destroy anything that you built to return the parts to your inventory. So it's all fairly easy and an intuitive system with lots of menus to build from. Now, I already know that Aloft will be getting a dedicated playlist on this channel because there are many future builds to come. I've already done a couple of houses in my solo playthrough and the free building mode that's available. Just for fun, because this game's building system allows for so much creativity with the pieces that it gives, from the rounded corners to the equilateral triangles given in a recent update. And near everything has size variations on it too, which really takes the limits off of some of the designs that one might like to create. There's a handful of furniture and decorations and lighting options currently that will mix and match with the building asset textures, and I'm always hoping for more options though. So I hope the developers aren't quite done coming up with some home and decor items, maybe even some more decorations or options for gardens. But I do love what's been given so far. Now we have 3 building style textures that come from the 3 current biomes. The Emerald Isle is simple wood and some stone. Now, some of the darker wood textures and the shingle roof pieces can be found in the Fallen Heights, while the Red Cliffs provides us with clay adobe structure options. This is new for me, too. I haven't had any games that offered this look before, so I'm looking forward to trying it out, especially since we've been given the island creator tools to create the perfect foundations for the builds that we want to make. Well, that was a lot. And I'm sure that I somehow still missed something about the game because it just has that much going on. But overall, I adore this game, and I fully expect it will be one that gets many hours, as several of the other building-related games on this channel. So if you like creative ideas, please check out the channel. But I do hope that you got something useful out of this guide. I appreciate that you stuck around this long in the video. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care, and bye-bye!